effects of colonization and the price some leaders paid for independence to the French is something Africans will not stop talking about. In the 1950s and 60s, France decided the French colonies of Africa will become independent. Although the Paris government accepted formal declarations of independence, it called on African countries to sign a so-called pact for the continuation of colonization. France has therefore accepted an independence on paper for its colonies, but has signed in parallel cooperation agreements specifying the nature of their relations with France, especially the ties to the currency, the franc, the French education system, military agreements, and trade preferences. 14 African countries still pay colonial tax in brackets for the benefits of slavery and colonization to European countries. Now, for how long will these go on? This is a post-colonial reality. Hello to you all, and thanks for joining us in the studio. It's Views on the Continent on Afrique Media TV. Now, before I begin, I want to say a happy International Women's Day to all the ladies out there. Today, we are talking about the post-colonial reality, as so many call it, especially the former president of South Africa. And I would like us to listen to him before coming back to the program. Take a listen.
It's a small but passionate movement, calling for dramatic action on the CFA franc.
It is not possible for us to move towards a single African.
The colonial approach that we are talking about, as you know, Africa is the only continent in the world that was colonized by Europe, totally. We had to fight what we call the anti-colonial wars to free ourselves. And they were bitter wars. They were not just small wars, very bitter. When Africa became free, there was no arrangement how to make Africa develop. So they were left as they were. Up to this day, in some of the African countries, you still have the armies of the former colonial countries. What do they want there? You still have a mentality that they look at you as a former subject when they do business with you. And the fact that we have not shifted in terms of how the economic relations are, that's a bigger problem. The companies that dominate these countries come from the former colonial countries. In no way you have the indigenous companies growing to be in charge, so to speak. So that's a kind of relationship which is very skewed. It's not balanced. And there's been no effort to them who have the means to help balancing the relationship. That's what we are talking about. We were saying so also because at times there's a bit of an interference in what Africa is doing. You know, since you say you have listened to some of us speaking, you must have listened to us talking about a country called Libya, which from a country operating has been put into a very serious crisis. The Africans were there with a roadmap to solve the problem. They refused. They thought that the best thing is to bomb Libya out of this world. And they bombed it continuously, knowing very well that we don't agree. That is using their colonial position against those that they had colonized. And we now have ended up with that region totally undermined, and they are no longer there to solve the problem.
Now, I would like us to receive or to welcome our guest in the studio, and that is Edmond Kiate. Hello to you, sir, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gina. Happy Women's Day.
Thank
I know
you.
this is your day. And I would like to seize this opportunity to say Happy Women's Day, worldwide. This is a special day for you guys, and then say hello to all your televiewers. Thanks for inviting me once again.
Thank you, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. Now, you heard the president of South Africa. The West, Europe, we're talking about Europe, and in this case, I want to use France. Do they sometimes use their colonial position against some African leaders? He did mention Libya, and we've heard about coup d'etats that happen in some African countries. Do you think the French government or European powers sometimes use their colonial power on countries that they colonized about 50 years ago?
Yeah, Gina, it's very important when we are talking about Western countries. It's very important, and especially when we're talking about colonization, it's important to to make a difference between most of these countries. Most of the countries in Africa were not colonized only by a single country. You get French, you get Portugal, you got Spanish, and then you get Britain, even UK. So, but I would like to say here that one of the greatest misfortune of Africa has been the encounter between France and some African countries. Why am I saying that? Because nowadays, if you see the way things have been operated in some African countries, I would like to say mostly former British colonies, it is quite different from what is still going on in former French. I don't know if we got to call it former French colonies or French colonies, because really, if you ask me what is the difference between the way things are going on presently and the way things were going on in the bygone days, I'm not going to tell you any difference, because the influence of France in our domestic affairs is very, very heavy. We're talking of political influence, we're talking of economic influence, we're talking of at all levels. You have the interference of France in all our affairs, and that is why if you compare former French colonies and British former colonies, and even Portugal former colonies, you will see the difference. In terms of democracy, they are very advanced. You see what's happening in Ghana, see what's happening in Kenya, you see what's happening in Ethiopia, you see what's happening even in Nigeria. We're talking about what? Every 4 years or 8 years, they will change a president. And you see the way their economy is growing, is fast growing. We don't say there's no problem over there. There's still problem, but everywhere in the world there's problem. Even in the United States you have problem, France you have problem, UK, but it is their internal problem, and they have the possibility. They are free to take care, to decide the way they want to carry their affairs, which is quite different in the former French colonies. Because in the French, we think that all the former colonies of France are still being ruled right from Élysée. There is no difference. This is at all levels. They decide which to be appointed minister. They decide first who is going to be elected president. I'm not saying elected president, but they decide who is the president of the country. And once they decide who is the president, they decide who is going to be appointed minister, general manager of companies, and so on. At all the level of the administration institutions, they decide who is going to be appointed, and they make sure this guy is well, he's there to serve their interests. He's going to obey to this. He's going to obey to their policy before you will be appointed. So, if you ask me if there's a difference in between nowadays the way things are ruled the way things are being managed in our country, and the days in the bygones, I would say there's no quite difference. The only difference is that they are now using our black brothers. You will not longer see a white man in our capitals, in our countries, making a decisions. You will not see. They used to have what they call a French representative. High French representative in our country. You will not longer see that. It will be a black brother. It will be your own brother, but in his mind, he's a French guy, and he's there to preserve and to defend primarily the interests of France. That is the only difference. That is something they have succeeded, in brainwashing most of our brothers and turn them against our countries. And you will see them there thinking they are working for the good of our countries, which is wrong. They are working primarily for the interests of France.
Okay, now, Mr. Kouyaté, those who have been recalcitrant, we all know the stories. We've had the stories. I don't need to call names here, but then it doesn't end well with them. Either they get kicked out of power or they get killed in power. Now, is this why some of African leaders, especially French former colonies, do not perform well, because they know that they have someone else that they are answering to?
Well, let's go back to the 1960s. When Mr. de Gaulle came to Africa, and then he presented a kind of community he wanted France to live in with African countries, former colonies. He called it a community. One of a very tough president by then, Sékou Touré, he was the president of Guinea Conakry. He told them, and he gave a speech that is still memorable, but he said, "We prefer to be poor and live freely than to have opulence and be in slavery." That's what he said. And de Gaulle said, "I don't care. He who wants independence can go ahead and take it now." What happened next is that Mr. Sékou Touré said, "No, I don't want to live in community with France. I'd rather be independent and then build my own country the way, according to our proper culture and realities." So he decided not to be part of the community. What happened next is there was all kind of sabotage. The French people decided to sabotage, to destroy all the schools, medical institutions, finance institutions, medicaments. Everything was destroyed completely. Even roads, railways, everything was detailedly destroyed. Even foods were poisoned. They even went as far as poison some food and some medicaments in the pharmacies. I mean, they destroyed everything. That did not just limit there. They went as far as producing some fake currencies, to spoil the economy of the country, and that is. Guinea is still paying that up to today, because the structure of the economy was completely destroyed with these fake currencies that French produced and polluted the whole country with. And you will also have somebody like Modibo Keïta, who was a former president of Mali. Modibo Keïta was a very tough guy. He's one of the guys who thought that Africa, the salvation of Africa will come from unity of Africa. So he was building a very powerful country called Mali. And what happened is that he was jailed up and he was deported, and he died. He finally died in prison. And I will also name somebody like David Dacko, who was chasing from power by French, army. And you have somebody like Chris Silviano Olympio from Togo, who said, "No, this CFA currency cannot help our economy to grow, because we cannot use this currency and build up a strong economy. So I want to get out of this." What happened 4 days after this guy was assassinated? He was bloodily assassinated. And there are many of them. There are two things. If you want to go out of this system, either you will be killed or you will be politically ejected. You can no longer be there. So I think, and there is no way you will come into power in this country without the approval France. There is no way. Forget about what we call elections. Forget about all that. To me, it's just a distraction. It doesn't exist. We cannot talk of democracy and free and transparent elections in colonialism. It is not possible, because the master, at the end of the day, the master has to decide who is going to be there at the top, on top, because you call him president, but he's a commercial representative, an industrial representative. Locally, you call him president, head of state. It means nothing. If you go to Paris, he's an employee. Simple as that. And they have to make sure the guy who is there, the employee who is there, is the right guy who is really determined to defend and to preserve their interest. So in this vein, how can you talk of democracy? How can you talk of election? It is not possible. It's a mere distraction. All what they are doing every day, calling election, to me, that's why I never participate to elections, because to me, the first thing we got to do in Africa is to make sure we take back our freedom, we set our people free, we set our nations free. Then we decide what is the best way for us to rule our countries. To me, that is much more important.
Yeah, very important indeed. And we are going to come back to the way forward, how we can get out of this post-colonial reality. Fellow viewers, if you're just joining us, it's Views on the Continent on Afrique Media TV. And this afternoon, today, we are talking about some African countries that are still paying the colonial tax to the French government. Now, how are we going to go about getting out of this? This program is an interactive one. You can join us using any of the numbers on the screen. And now let's just go to the call center, where we're going to begin receiving some reactions. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us.
Gina, I believe even a case can be broken, because French-speaking countries in Africa, the way they function is as if there is a case that is following them, and that is the reason why, both economically and whatsoever, there is nothing that is moving. All French-speaking countries are backward, simply because of this so-called colony, or the colonial master called France, because France is the one that is hindering development in French-speaking countries in Africa. Gina, as I said, this case can be broken. It is high time for these leaders to sit down together and to discuss and deliberate on this issue. For how long are we going to be suffering in the hands of these French, in the hands of France, in which we hold the knife and the yam in our hands? We can decide on whatsoever on whatsoever thing that we want, or any way that we want our African countries to grow or to function. It is not a must that they must only be having they must only be having some things, or having instruction from France. It is high time for them to sit down and to discuss good things that will make African, or that will develop African countries, especially French-speaking countries. It is high time for us to remove or to cancel all this France CFA in our midst, because that is the one of the main barrier that is making the French-speaking countries not to be growing. France is like a worm in your system. It's like a worm in your system that is making you not to feel free. And it is high time for us to remove this particular worm, or to remove this canker worm in our system, so that everything will be moving smoothly. If we want that our African country, our French-speaking countries to grow, automatically our leaders need to sit up and deliberate on this particular issue, and say enough is enough with all this system or whatsoever called France. Thank you, Gina. And happy Women's Day to you and all the women's who are listening to me at this present moment, especially my mother. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that was Ngwe Marcel. Thanks for your contribution. We have another participant. Hello to you and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Gina. Good afternoon, AfriMedia. Good afternoon to all the televiewers. I want to say that France is a case to most of her colonies in Africa because he has made the leaders to be working under them. The leaders have no power over France because we cannot imagine a continent, this part of Africa, that has so many natural resources. And then France still have power over us. Our leaders export our goods to them, but at the end of the day, we have nothing to receive, nothing come out from France. So we don't see the need, we don't see the reason why we should always remain there with them. So I believe if these African leaders, if these French African colonies can sit back and reflect on what strategy they could use to eliminate France totally from their territory, then it will serve us right. But how I wish UN has the power to stop France from whatsoever he's doing in French colonies. But I'm sorry. It's a pity UN has nothing to say over this issue. That's why we'll keep on. In as far as this French president or this long head of state are still in power, will always remain suffer. Will suffer under France as long as they are still alive and as long as they are still in power. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was Mukete Primo. Thanks for your contribution. Now, Mr. Kouyaté, what I just gathered from the last two callers is all of them want African leaders to sit together and make decisions to leave to stop France, I beg your pardon, to stop France from controlling them. And one even mentioned deliberating about the France CFA. I'm sure you've been hearing our leaders meeting almost every year to talk about the France CFA, if it's going to be devalued, if they're going to leave, stop using the currency and all that. But then after so much time, they have not taken any concrete action. What do you think about all of this?
Gina, we have to be frank with ourselves. Do you want me, Gina, to sit here and believe that somebody who has been appointed, I'm not saying elected, please make the difference, somebody who have been appointed by France with a mission, they only know amongst themselves what is the mission? You want me to sit here and think that I should rely on this person to fight against the man who against his master? Name all these countries you're talking about, and then I will tell you, I will ask you how they came to power. Most of them, none of them came into power with the will of the populations. No. They were appointed, I'm saying they were appointed by their master, France. And they were appointed. When you are appointed, it means you have some missions that are predefined to you. And you agree that, okay, I'm going to fulfill these missions. And then you are appointed. you think along the way you will say, no, I'm not longer following this mission. I'm not longer going to follow this because of this, because people are not happy. No, I'm sorry, not. This is for me the opportunity to tell all those who still relying of their so-called leaders not to fool themselves anymore. If we want our freedom, we have to stand up ourselves, we the population. We have to stand up. Only the population have the power to fight, irrespective to what the leaders think or they don't think. We know what is good for us. If we know what is good for us, let us stand up and fight for it. Because if you think that Mr. Sassou Nguesso, we all know what France did through earth to maintain Sassou Nguesso in power. About 10,000 people, thousands of people were killed, entire nation destroyed, and this war was sponsored by France through earth. That's the petroleum company. They were the one paying for everything, paying the mercenaries, paying weapons and everything. And today, you want Mr. Sassou Nguesso to say, oh no, I want to stop everything with France. Let us be frank. We should not, if you want to fool other people, let's not fool ourselves. Let us be frank. So,
Mr. Kuyate, let me cut you in a bit. From what you're saying, I just want to think that you could be saying that some leaders are that selfish that they could want to stay in power longer, and they do not probably care about their citizens, that will be like, yes, colonial master, we can do whatever we want to do.
Of course, they are there for two things: serving themselves and serving their master. Full stop. They don't care. From time to time, they can do certain things just to please the population, and that is all. But about the entire, fate of the nation, they give no damn at all. And believe me, that is why thousands of years, many years, for decades, populations have been crying. People have been suffering. Go into all these countries. You will see how people are living in total squalor. People are living in black misery. They are crying, suffering. You think these people are not aware of the situation? They are perfectly aware of the situation, but they don't give a damn at all. That is not part of the mission. Your welfare, your well-being, the well-being of the population is not part of the mission. It's not part of the contract. It's not part of the agreement they signed with their master. No, it's not part of that. Why do you want them to take care of that? If you want something, please stand up and fight for it. Let me tell you something. We are the only people in Africa that we believe that we will enjoy honey, but we are very afraid of bees. We are the only people. Because if you go through the history of all these big countries, you will see how they have fought for their freedom, for their dignity. You will see how many lives passed away just to fight for the country to stand up and be a strong country. And today they are strong countries. But we are there, everybody is afraid, nobody we want peace, but at the same time, we want freedom. You have to decide, you have to make a choice. If you want peace, okay, go and stay at home, live peacefully, and take what you get. At the end of the day, your choice is what you have decided. If you've made a choice, stand firm on that choice. But you cannot say, no, I don't want honey, I want honey, and I don't want bees. And no, you have to make a decision. And I think in Africa, we've made our decision. We want peace. And let us enjoy our peace and full stop. But at the same time, we should not turn and say, no, our leaders. No, that is cowardice. We all coward. That's why we think everybody turn his eye on the leaders. Everybody, our leaders, What leaders are you talking about? When did you elect that man? What is the contract you have with him? Tell me, what is the contract you have with him because before you expect something from somebody, you will say, this is the agreement we've got. You agree to do this, you agree to do that. To me, if you ask me as a Cameroonian, I will tell you I've never seen my president campaigning. Because for elections, I've never seen him campaigning. He always sit in his office, and people will come in the field and say, the president sent this message. You want me to go and ask him to give me to give me account of what somebody has said? He has said. No. Why? I never heard him saying that himself. What is his program? I don't know. So why do you want him to be, to give me accountability? No, I don't expect that from him at all. So you will see everywhere politicians will go in the field, meet with people, discuss with them, explain their program. That is what we call social contract, social agreement. Because tomorrow, if you do not do what you said, then I can stand in the street and say, please, this is what you said, this is the video. This is the program you said, and I have copy of your program. You said you will do this, you said you will do this, you said you will do this. And then I have all the reason to say you must be impeached. But in Africa, tell me, I'm talking of French-speaking countries, because when you're talking of Africa, sometimes people think it's a single country. No, we're talking of a single part of the country being the former French colonies. I don't know why I call it former, but it's still colonies. So that is what we're talking about. So people have to make a decision. You have just mentioned something very important, and I would like to say it too. The CFA franc, we all know that with this CFA franc, there is no single perspective of development. Everybody is aware of it. I am an economist. I know what I'm talking about. I want somebody to stand in front of me and demonstrate to me that when you have no power on your currency, then you can think about, you can set up, you can put in place a development program. It is fake. Let's not fool ourselves. We have to be frank. It is not possible. And everybody know that through this currency, CFA franc, we are paying debts to France up to now. Because all our reserve are being kept in France treasury. All our reserve. That means whatever we sell, be it wood, be it oil, be it minerals, be it whatsoever we sell, the money, if you sell even to China, to Singapore, to USA, to Germany, wheresoever in this world you sell, the money will pass through France first. No, there is no direct transaction between any country with French colonies. There is no direct transaction. If you sell it to China, China will pay through the treasury of France, and then France will decide what they will give to you. That is how it is structured. And if they pay you 1,000 francs, then France will say, okay, I will send you 500 francs. And they decide how this 500 must be used. And they decide who is going to use it. They decide your priorities. If you have to build a school, they say, no, forget about school first. That is not a priority for now. If you want to build a route, they say, no, it's not a priority now. If you want to build no, that is not a priority. And they decide what is the priority in your country. What development do you think it is possible in such conditions? Let not be fools.
Okay, let's just receive some other reactions. Hello to you, and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Regina. Good afternoon, viewers of African Media. Concerning today's topic, that says African leaders have been discussing about the withdrawal from using franc CFA as their monetary currency. Here they have not taken a bold step. One thing I want you to know that the French countries are the most affected countries. No development that can take place in this country until they are out of that monetary system. French country is very wise. That is the reason why they refuse to use the franc CFA their money and join the European Union for a single monetary currency, which is euro. I will just outline few reasons why they can not be out of this system. One, African country that's still using this currency has problem because they still depend on their colonial master for assistance. Secondly, some of the leaders of this country were put in the regime by the influence of French government, which make them remain under the slavery of their colonial master. Most of this country were attacked with terrorism because the French country will not allow them to go because they are the original sponsor of this event. Thank you, Regina.
We have another participant. Hello to you and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon, Gina. Good afternoon, televiewers of African Media. Well, France, from the word go, what is actually taking place between French African colonies or countries and their colonial master or their former colonial master? No, I don't even want to say former colonial master. I want to say neo-colonial master, France. It's something very, very historic, and it's just like a cord tied to the child that cannot be taken away. If you just pull it so hard, the child might die. Well, from the onset, the French did not ever believe that they will leave Africa or leave most of their colonial countries. Reason why they call them commune or call them French overseas provinces. They even had deputies or commune or also called what that had that attended the French National Assembly. You can quite remember some Senegalese who sat for these West African countries. It's quite very, very uncertain that the wave of nationalism took the French by surprise, and they grudgingly or they unintentionally gave up their colonial plans. Reason why they did everything possible to make sure that these African countries keep attached to them. And they brought out that agreement where you were to sign that you will still fall under them, or that they will still have some control over your economy or your own daily life, and you could like benefit from their continuous assistance. We can really confirm this through Guinea-Bissau with the help of Nkrumah, who denied, or Nkrumah influenced them to deny or to refuse from signing that pact with France. And what did we see at the end? The French destroyed everything that they had built in Guinea-Bissau. And even to date, communication, political situations, political decisions are being taken in consultation with Paris. It's just quite dangerous, intriguing, and demeaning to see such things still taking place in the 21st century. We can count, for example, Cameroon and Bolloré. You just see Bolloré to date controlling the economy of Cameroon. You can talk about these port facilities, the ship, railway, sea transport, and even airways. The guy has about...
That was Lewis Mvenya, but I'm afraid we've lost him. Let's receive another participant again. Hello to you and thanks for joining us.
Okay, good evening. Hello?
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us. Tell us who you are, then you continue with your contribution.
Okay, yeah. What I want to say is that at least Africa, they have made everything possible to say that let them join one foreign currency, which they try to follow up. But it's making it very difficult to themselves because their leaders are corrupt. And it is very important to see that if the French colonies, in some of the French African countries, they cut off from the French, see that the idea of coming down to one currency will be very possible. But since the French they are now initiated very highly, they don't want to cut off to have one foreign currency because they send all the assets of French, all their living, all their everything comes from Africa. And you look at it, because our political our politicians investing all our money now, invested back to the French, and these are people who are suffering. Look at an example like in Cameroon, we're suffering now today. A head of state to rule at least for something years. They are still there every day, and he has never again go out for a campaign. You don't say in the office and got appointed people. We say the election is coming on after 3 years, sometimes they change it to 4 years, sometimes change it to 7 years. He remain there, nobody can even to oppose him. But now that even the French colonies are already tired of him, they are switched off himself now to the Switzerland. And now look at it that all of things that's happening today. It is very important to see that Africa should cut off themselves. Because we have come to the stage. We have the richest continent in the world. But because of this management and making we Africa, we are suffering. Where all our resources, they come from the world, man, come from Europe, come and study all everything and send it back. We are there suffering every day and night. So at least it is better than this cut off from our colonies. So that we stand on ourselves. At least by 2020, you see that Africa will come to the level that we do not supposed to depend on somebody. We have everything in Africa continent, but we give it all to the white, and we are here suffering, killing ourselves every day and night because of the bad leadership we have. So let Africa should come down together as one continent, as one person, to have just one currency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, Mr. Kouyaté, let's just conclude on this. I want you to come back to this again. Many have said that if Africa wants to be free, wants to be developed, that's economic freedom and everything, they have to stand up to France. That's I'm talking about French Africa. They have to stand up to France. So what do you advise people like you and me, the people who are out there really wanting change? What will you advise them to do, since we cannot just rely alone on our leaders?
I would like my fellow brothers and sisters to listen to something very important. Freedom has a price that must be paid. Freedom can never be a gift. Freedom can never be something that they take for granted. That can never be something that somebody will grant to you and say, take it. It has never existed. Let's go through the history of all nations, most of these big nations. Go to Scottish, go to Ireland, go to USA, go to all this, go even to France, go to UK, go to Germany. Ask them, what is the price of freedom? And they will tell you, the price of freedom is fight. Only fight will set people free. If you do not fight for your freedom, if you do not stand up to fight for your freedom, never expect that to be given to you as a mere gift. Say, take it. Nobody will do that. Let us understand something. It is very vital for France to keep us the way we are, because from our misery depend their happiness. If we cut everything today, France will collapse. Definitely. They will collapse. All their industry will collapse. Why? Because the energy of France comes from is a nuclear one, and this what they use for this energy is uranium that they take free from Niger, from Central Africa, from North Mali, and so on. That's why they have to keep us the way we are. As long as we are slaves, they will be happiest people. So, if we understand that, and if we want that to stop, let us forget about our leaders. Our leaders are their local representatives. They are not there to work for us. I know it. That's why I never mention our leaders in anything. If we need freedom, let's stand up as a single man, from Cameroon, from Gabon, from Chad, from Central Africa, from all these 14 neo-colonial colonies. Let us stand up as a single man and send these guys back to their country. That's the only way we can expect to have a bit of freedom, and we can expect to rule our country ourselves, and we can expect to set a bit of development for the well-being of our countries, of our fellow compatriots. That is the only way. I don't know any other way. The contrary will be for us to sit down and be crying every day as we're doing. We've been crying, shouting, screaming, but it leads us to nowhere. No single, we will go to nowhere because we're crying. Some other people will say United Nations. France is part of the founders of United Nations. If you say you are crying to USA, the whole world is a mafia. There's nobody who is not aware of what is going on here. Be it Americans, Germans, and everybody knows what is going on. It's not like Africa is a place where people are living in a search of self-sufficiency. No, what is happening in Africa is well known by everybody. And nobody want to talk because it is their affair. If they think it is good for them, if they're saying nothing, it means they're happy with that. So as long as we sit down and saying nothing, just crying the way we're crying, nobody will come to help. Nobody will come to rescue. Our well-being depends on us. Our goodness depends on us. Our freedom depends on us. Our development depends on us. If you want to be free people, if you want to be free nations, we have to stand up. Mr. Zuma, who was talking, the former president, he knows what he's talking about. When he said, we fight for our freedom. He knows what he's talking about. This is somebody who has fought for long with Mr. Mandela, Mbeki, and the other guys, Steve Biko, and all of them. They know what it means to fight for freedom. They have fought against these white guys for their freedom during apartheid. So he knows the price, the cost of freedom. The cost of freedom is not crying. You can cry from morning till night, day in, day out, year in, year out. It will never help. You have to stand up and fight. You have to accept to pay the price. And as long as we will not do that here to stand France, nothing will change. The situation will remain the same. So it's time for us to really stand up. If we really want to fight, if we really want something to happen in our country, something good, something new, something excellent for our country, we have to stand up and fight. Forget about leaders. Leaders, like I said, are being appointed by their master for a mission, and they are fulfilling this mission. We internally, we think they are doing nothing, but they, with their master, they know they are doing good, because since France is still a big country, because they are doing their job well, that's why France is still a very big country. France will be the second or the third oil explorer in the world without having a drop of oil in his soil, because all the oil is coming from Africa. He's sucking all the oil from Gabon, from Congo, from Cameroon, all over. And he's there boasting that he's one of the biggest, world largest oil explorer with Total. From where? They have no drop of oil in France. France is one of the powerful nuclear nation in the world. They have no drop of uranium. All this is coming from Africa. And then you think that these leaders are not playing they are doing their job. But according to the charter they signed with their master, not according to the agreement they got with their own people. I have no agreement with any of these leaders. That's why I want him to be accountable to me, because I have no agreement with him at all. Like I said, I've never seen somebody campaigning to me that he wants to be president in Cameroon, that I've decided to vote for him, therefore he has to be accountable to me. I've never seen that. So that is why I will never talk of that. I will never say, please give me accounts of what you've been doing so far in power, because we got no agreement. So when we'll be free, we will decide who is going to rule our country, and we will sign an agreement with him. If he fails to respect this agreement, we will impeach him out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edmond Kiate. Thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. A very big thanks to all of those of you who participated during the program. And of course, we will not leave out our technicians. Thanks for always being there for us. Now, from wherever you're watching me, ladies, it's Happy Women's Day. And to all fellow viewers, goodbye for now.